All right, Emilio, I've got a burning question for you today. It's something that honestly, I've struggled with a little bit when I'm trying to get by in Spanish-speaking countries. How do you tell the time?
Ah, Wesley, a classic. It's one of those fundamental things, isn't it? You can order food, you can ask for directions, but if you can't figure out when the bus leaves or when dinner is, you're a bit stuck. It's actually not as complicated as people think, but it has its own little quirks.
Exactly. I've been in situations where I needed to ask, what time is it? And even getting that simple phrase right felt like a hurdle, let alone understanding the answer. So, where do we even begin?
Let's start with that essential question, what time is it? In Spanish, it's ¿qué hora es? Super straightforward, right? Hora means hour or time, so you're literally asking, what hour is it?
Okay, ¿qué hora es? I can definitely remember that. My issue usually comes with understanding the response, because it's not always a direct translation, is it?
No, it's not. That's where the fun begins. The absolute most crucial thing to grasp is the difference between es la and son las. This is about singular versus plural. If it's 1 o'clock, we say es la una. Es for singular, la, because hora is feminine. Makes sense, right?
So, es la una for 1 o'clock, and then for anything else, it's son las, like son las dos, son las tres?
Precisely. You've got it. Son is for plural and las because again, horas is feminine and plural. So son las dos, son las tres, son las cuatro, and so on, all the way up to son las doce.
That's a good starting point. The es la una versus son las. It makes a lot of sense when you break it down like that. But then, what about the minutes? Because that's where it gets a bit more intricate, I think.
It does, a little. So the easiest way to add minutes is using SUSI, which means and. So, if it's 2:10, you'd say son las dos y diez. For 10. If it's 3:25, son las tres y veinticinco. You literally just say the hour and the minutes.
Okay, that seems pretty intuitive. So, son las cuatro y cinco for 4:05, and y diez for 4:10, y quince for 4:15. Wait, is there a special word for 15 minutes, like quarter past in English?
There is. You caught it. Just like in English, we have quarter past. In Spanish, it's y cuarto. So 4:15 would be son las cuatro y cuarto, and for half past, it's y media. So 4:30 is son las cuatro y media. These are super common and sound very natural.
Ah, y cuarto, and y media. That's really helpful. So, if I'm trying to say 7:30, I'd say son las siete y media. That rolls off the tongue much better than y treinta, you know?
Exactly. You could say y treinta and people would understand you, but y media is definitely the more natural, common way to express it. It's like saying half past versus 30 minutes past in English. Both are correct, but one is more conversational.
Okay, so we've covered the first half hour, hour-y minutes. But what happens when you get past the half-hour mark, like 4:40 or 4:45? Do you still say son las cuatro y cuarenta? Or does it switch to the hour like in English?
That's an excellent question, Wesley, and that's exactly where it switches. Once you pass the half hour, it becomes common to start thinking about the next hour. So, instead of Ilonia, you use menos menos. You state the next hour and then subtract the minutes. So 4:40 would be son las cinco menos veinte. Literally, it is 5 minus 20.
Whoa, that's a big shift. Son las cinco menos veinte for 4:40. So you're saying 20 minutes until 5. That's actually pretty logical when you think about it. Does cuarto also get used here like quarter to?
Absolutely. Just as we have y cuarto for quarter past, we have menos cuarto for quarter to. So 4:45 would be son las cinco menos cuarto. This is super common, probably even more so than y cuarto.
Okay, this is making so much more sense now. So let me try a couple. If it's 8:50, would that be son las nueve menos diez?
Perfect. Exactly right. Son las nueve menos diez. You're on fire. Another one. How about 11:55?
Okay, 11:55. That would be son las doce menos cinco. 5 minutes until 12. Am I saying that right?
Flawless. You've definitely got the hang of the menos part. This is where a lot of learners get a bit tangled, but it's really just a different way of thinking about the clock.
It feels less intimidating when you explain it this way. So, we've got the hour, the EY for past the hour, and the menos for to the hour. What about AM and PM? Because I often hear de la mañana or de la tarde. How do those fit in?
Excellent point. Spanish doesn't typically use AM/PM in the same way. Instead, they use phrases that literally translate to of the morning, of the afternoon, of the night. So for AM, before noon, you use de la mañana. For instance, 8 a.m. is son las 8 de la mañana.
Got it. So, son las 8 de la mañana. And then for PM?
For the afternoon, roughly from noon until early evening, it's de la tarde. So 3 p.m. is son las 3 de la tarde. And then, for evening and night, from maybe 8 p.m. onwards, it's de la noche. So 10 p.m. is son las 10 de la noche.
Okay, de la mañana, de la tarde, de la noche. Are there specific terms for noon and midnight?
You bet. For noon, it's mediodía, and for midnight, it's medianoche. Notice we use es medio because it's a specific, singular point in time. You wouldn't say son las 12 de la tarde for noon, you'd say es mediodía.
That's super helpful. So, if I'm trying to arrange something for 1 p.m., would I say es la 1 de la tarde?
Exactly. Es la 1 de la tarde. And that es la 1 is crucial because it's still singular even though it's past noon. Don't forget that little detail.
Right. Es la 1 because it's singular. Okay, I think I'm starting to piece this together. So let's try a few full examples just to cement it. What about 6 a.m.?
Give it a shot.
Okay, 6 a.m., that would be son las 6 de la mañana. How about 2:15 p.m.?
Good one.
2:15 p.m., son las 2:15 de la tarde. And then, something tricky like 9:40 p.m.?
Ooh, nice challenge.
9:40 p.m., that's 20 minutes to 10, so, son las 10 menos 20 de la noche.
Wesley, that's absolutely perfect. You've got all the pieces fitting together. You know, practice really makes perfect with this. Just keep saying times out loud when you see them.
I really will. I'm already feeling more confident. So, beyond just asking what time it is, are there other common time-related questions or phrases we should know?
Definitely. Another crucial one is at what time ask. For that, you use a qué hora es. So if you want to ask at what time does the movie start, it would be a qué hora empieza la película. And the answer would usually start with a las or a la una.
Okay, so a qué hora, for at what time, that's another really important one for daily interactions. So if someone asks a qué hora es la reunión and it's at 5 p.m., I would say a las 5 de la tarde.
Spot on, Wesley. You've nailed that connection. It's all about context. If you're responding to qué hora es, you use son las or es la. If you're responding to a qué hora es, you use a las or a la una. It's a subtle but important distinction.
That's super helpful. I feel like this clarifies so many little confusions I've had. Any other quick tips or common pitfalls to avoid when telling time?
One common thing to remember is that in many Spanish-speaking countries, especially in official schedules like train times, movie listings, or flight departures, they often use the 24-hour clock, or military time as some call it. So 3 p.m. would be las 15 horas or just las 15. This eliminates the need for de la tarde or de la noche sometimes.
Ah, that's a really good point. I've seen that on tickets and schedules. So if I see 1890, I know that's las 18 or 6 p.m. That's smart. It avoids ambiguity.
Exactly. And another thing, sometimes you'll hear en punto for on the dot or exactly. So if it's exactly 7 o'clock, you could say son las 7 en punto.
En punto. I like that. It adds a nice touch of precision. So, to recap for everyone listening, we start with qué hora es to ask the time. We respond with es la una for 1 o'clock, and son las for all other hours. We add minutes with EY40 for the first half hour, using y cuarto for 15, and y media for 30.
And then, for the second half of the hour, you move to the next hour and use menos for minutes to that hour, like menos cuarto for 45. And remember to add de la mañana, de la tarde, or de la noche for AM/PM distinction, or es mediodía and es medianoche for noon and midnight.
And for asking at what time, it's a qué hora, followed by your question, and the answer typically starts with a las, or a la una. This has been incredibly comprehensive, Emilio. I feel like I could actually confidently tell the time now.
That's awesome to hear, Wesley, and that's the goal. It just takes a little practice. Try setting your phone to Spanish or just mentally translate the time whenever you look at a clock. You'll get fluent with it in no time.
Fantastic advice. And to all our listeners, thank you for joining us on this journey to master time in Spanish. Keep practicing, and you'll be telling time like a native in no time.
Hasta la próxima, and learn Spanish like I did.